Traders, welcome back to Simply Forex. In this video, we're going to do a tutorial, and we're going to do a tutorial on cross-currency analysis, okay? And how we can use this as another piece of Confluence for our trades, okay? So stay to the end of the vid, guys, and I'm going to explain everything. Now, the catalyst for this video was this question in the VIP. So in the VIP Discord, guys, there's an area where you can ask me questions. And shout out to Ravi, he asked me this question. Okay, so this is a question I asked myself but cannot find the answer. Perhaps you can help me out. As an example, I have a bearish bias on pound US dollar, but on pound New Zealand dollar, I am bullish. Okay, it's a pound contradiction there, okay? But that's fine. As he explains, I am comfortable with that because I understand that the common currency pound can be stronger than New Zealand dollar, but weaker than the US dollar, right? Exactly. However, when analyzing yen crosses, I want to have the same bias in all the pairs, or at least most of the pairs. Why do I look for all the yen crosses to move in the same direction? Okay, do most traders have the same expectation, and why? Or is this a mindset that I should change? So it's a really good question, and we're going to break this down bit by bit and slowly work through all of these questions, right? Now, it's important to notice the date because we're going to start with pound US dollar and pound New Zealand dollar, right? So 12th of December, okay? So let's just close the question down now. And on pound US dollar, we are going to go back in time and we're only going to see the 12th of December candle because that message was written at the end of the day. Okay, so looking at pound US dollar, first and foremost, you must analyze each pair on its own merit. Okay, so when I go through 28 currency pairs, I just look at each currency pair. I'm not thinking of I'm seeing pound strength or I'm seeing New Zealand dollar weakness. I am just analyzing each pair on its own merit. And then once I've collated all that information, then you'll see what's strong and what's weak. Okay, so first and foremost, use price action to determine what you're seeing. Now, pound US dollar, I'm still seeing in an uptrend. Okay, so I necessarily wouldn't be looking for sells, but you can see we had this consolidation and then a big candle that broke out of that consolidation, and there was room down to these last lows here. All right, so I understand potentially how you can be looking for pound US dollar sells, right? Now, if we look at pound New Zealand dollar, right, this is far clearer, right? We are in an uptrend and we've even broken a key weekly resistance level here, but we're in an uptrend. We've had a bit of a retrace. This would suggest we could take price back up. All right, so just looking at the two trades, we had pound US dollar, bear with me, sell, right? And we had, I'm just going to do pound New Zealand dollar buys. Okay. Now, ideally, I want, once I've looked at 28 currency pairs, I want to see pound strength in the market, or I want to see yen strength or US dollar weakness, because having that to back up your trade idea is another piece of confluence. But in this situation, we don't have that. This trade is suggesting pound weakness and US dollar strength. And this trade is telling us pound strength, but New Zealand dollar weakness. Okay, now, as Ravi said, he's okay with that because if you look at the order of the strength of these pairs, you're basically saying US dollar is the strongest. Okay, remember pound we are saying is stronger than New Zealand dollar, so pound is second strongest just out of these three currencies, and third, the weakest, is New Zealand dollar. That's what these two trades are telling us. And again, that's okay. We can have that, right? But ideally, I want all pound pairs moving in the same direction, okay? Now, if you think about that for a minute, right, then clearly, logically speaking, right, you would be thinking, I have, New Zealand dollar against US dollar, because New Zealand dollar is the weakest, right? And US dollar is the strongest. So really, the trade, what your analysis tells you, is to sell New Zealand dollar, US dollar. Now, logically, that makes sense, but in reality, that's not always the case. Okay, so let's take a look at New Zealand dollar, US dollar now, because our analysis said we should sell it, right? So let's have a look at New Zealand dollar, US dollar. I'm using the same day, right? This is the 12th of December. Now, if I scroll out, this is a key support level over here, and this is where price is at. Okay, now you can see we do have a bit of a wick that's closed back into that, but we do have a nice big bearish wick, but we haven't broke these lows really. Okay, so although our analysis suggested we should sell New Zealand dollar, US dollar, as I said, you must look at each currency pair on its own merit in terms of price action. Okay, and this is telling me no trade. We are still at resistance and haven't broke it. Okay, so I just wanted to share that first of all, right? And then interestingly, let's just see how pound US dollar played out quickly. Okay, let's have a look here. Let's just play it along. So Ravi was looking to sell. Okay, so there was enough room back down to these lows, right? And we've had a bit of a bounce off ever since. Okay, so sells were a good idea. All right, so US dollar was strong. Okay, stronger than pound US dollar. But now let's take a look at pound New Zealand dollar and see how that played out. Let me go back in time to the 12th. Okay, so this was the candle we're looking at. This was the 12th. Right, this candle here is bearish. It was suggesting that it could make its way back down to here, right? And if we play this one along as well, it got back down to that level. But ever since we've hit this resistance level, it actually shot up. So you have to bear in mind, guys, your time frame of your trade as well, right? If you're an intraday trader, okay, then this candle that formed on the 12th, you have to ask yourself, do you want to start buying that, right? Price came down. That meant pound was weak. Okay, but once we saw a bullish candle, price come back up. Now, if we go to pound US dollar, they pretty much moved in the same way. We had this big bearish candle, which would suggest that we have more room to the downside. And that's what happened. So although you had contrarian views with pound US dollar and pound New Zealand dollar, for the next day, at least, they moved in the same direction. And they've pretty much moved in the same direction ever since. So that's why I say, generally speaking, if I'm looking to sell pound US dollar, then I'm looking at pound weakness. And I want that to be confirmed with other trades as well. Okay. Now, although you do need to take each trade on its own merit, all right? But you can imagine if everything's moving, if everything's telling you there's pound weakness, that is a piece of Confluence in itself, right? And the candles told us that. All right. So the second part of Ravi's question was, he wants all yen pairs to be pulling in the same direction. Why is that? Now, yen and US dollar, I would say, it's normally a case of, well, especially with yen, actually, right? So if yen is strong, it's strong against all pairs. If yen is weak, it's weak across all yen pairs, right? You normally see yen make its own move regardless of the currency pair it's against, right? Especially recently, there's been lots of, interest rate hikes, further in the past, BOJ intervention, etc., right? So the yen as a whole tends to move in the same direction, okay? Now, I'm going to go back in time to a day, 14th of November. So let me just find this day, guys, right? Where are we? Okay. Right. So now I'm going to go back in time and I'm going to go to Aussie dollar yen. Now, you're going to get times where the yen contradicts itself, okay? And this is how I would approach it, okay? Now, if you look at, this is the day chart. We're only going to look at the day chart because that gives me the direction for the day. Now, this is the 14th of November, right? I had to find a day where there was contradiction, right? You can see Aussie dollar yen is, really in an uptrend, okay? We've broken this level here, right? We're in an uptrend. We're at the moving average 20, right? We're even getting, like bullish wicks, if not dojis, but, that would suggest we can take price back up to here. So that is yen weakness, okay? Now, let's look at CAD yen. This is all the same day, guys. Again, right? We're in a uptrend, although we are at resistance, okay? And we can see, a bit of rejection here. But generally speaking, uptrend, yen, uptrend with at a resistance level. I wouldn't touch this trade, right? But I just want to show you the contradiction amongst yen pairs. Then if we go to Swiss franc yen, right? It's a downtrend. Okay, so Swiss franc yen, this looks like a really good sell from this level. Okay, and then euro yen. So this is yen strength now. Aussie dollar yen, Canadian dollar yen were potentially yen weakness. Now, Swiss franc yen and now euro yen, we're seeing yen strength, right? We're in a downtrend, lower lows, and we're at a really nice level for selling here. Okay, this would even be a trade idea for me, and I'll tell you how I approach it in a minute. Let's just go through all the yen pairs. Pound yen, what's this telling us? Again, this is more yen weakness, right? We're getting these higher lows, right? These highs are holding, but we're at the moving average 20. We're thinking, right, we can take price potentially back up to these highs. Okay, so let's just carry it on through. New Zealand yen. Okay, this is it is in an uptrend, right? It is, but we're at a key resistance level, and these candles are quite bearish. So this is a bit of just a contradiction on its own merit, okay? And then let's finally look at US dollar yen. So this is all the same day that I'm looking at. And this would suggest yen weakness, right? We're in an uptrend, nothing but bullish candles, a little bit overextended, but generally speaking, yen is in an uptrend, right? So on that day, you can see that some pairs were suggesting yen strength, some pairs were suggesting yen weakness. So what to do, right? So generally speaking, I will stay out of yen pairs. Okay, because there's so much contradiction, right? I'll just say, okay, let's see what the next daily candle brings, and we can take a look at the yen pairs then. But I really liked Swiss franc yen and euro yen, right? If we go back to the day chart, how much do we love this setup where you get this, right? What was once support becomes resistance. Now, I'm wary of all this yen contradiction. So in this example, I would just drop down to the lower time frames and I'd say, like, look, you can see it's a mess. and ask myself, would I really be able to get a trade here? On H4, I would suggest no, right? You wouldn't. Yeah, if you want to have a break of structure, you want to be breaking these lows and then you're into resistance anyway. Let's have a look on the H1. Okay, so then perhaps if we get something like this, right, then we could start trading it, right? If we got a break of this level, we could start selling it down to here. So although euro yen wouldn't be one of my top trade ideas because of the contradiction, I would still keep an eye on it. And all I would do, I can't do this because I'm in replay mode, I would right click and just put an alarm in here and see how it plays out. Okay, and now let's just play this along out of curiosity. Okay, so holds on to those highs, still looking for at least H1 structure break. Yep, still haven't got one. Okay, I would say we've got a H1 structure break here, but then straight into this support level. So, like I said, I'm only interested if it breaks this level. Right, we don't break this level, spoke too soon. Okay, and then we do break that level, but it just didn't manifest into a trade, right? My target's going to be in here, back down to these lows. I'm not going to start selling here. So, it didn't pan out to be a trade, but, that's how I will approach contradictory cross pairs, okay? If we're just looking at yen. So, yeah, look at each trade individually, right? And let price action guide you whether you have a trade or not. But once you've looked at 28 currency pairs, what will become apparent is there's some yen strength or there's some pound weakness. And that as well acts as another piece of confluence. All right. So if I have a pair that I like, let's say I like euro yen sells. Oh no, let's do a different pair. Let's say I like euro US dollar buys, right? And every other US dollar major is telling me US dollar weakness. Then that piece of confluence acts as another reason to take that trade. And that's when it becomes one of my A1 top-notch trades. This euro example, because of all this contradiction, wasn't an A1 top-notch trade, but I will keep an eye on it, right, and see if we can break some key levels, which we do, but it didn't really manifest into a trade. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, Ravi. Yeah, and any more questions, guys, please don't forget to ask me in the VIP Ask Tom section. I hope you enjoyed the analysis. If you have, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, smash the notification button, and smash the like button. See you next time.